Many years ago, a brother in my congregation asked me to go with him in field service and return on a man who had asked him to come back. Well, it wasn't too long after we were there in his house that it became clear to us that he wasn't so much interested in listening to us as he was to convince us that Jehovah's Witnesses was the wrong religion. And he went on to attack Brother Russell. Charles Taze Russell started your organization, and he made accusations about Brother Russell did this and that, and et cetera. And his reasoning was that since Brother Russell was flawed in these ways, that God could not have used him to start the right religion. Well, we took the opportunity to point out his wrong reasoning.
What? Wrong reasoning? It's like John is being vague on purpose. Yes, it is fair criticism of the religion to point out the crazy things that Russell taught, like how he predicted several times the end of the world based on the pyramids. It's stupid to believe that God would use him to start a religion only for the religion to fundamentally change and go through different iterations until the version we have today, because that suggests God keeps changing his mind on what the truth is. However, check out the mental gymnastics he uses to stay in this cult using the Bible not only as a source of wisdom, but exclusively as a prop.
Basically, he was saying that God cannot use imperfect men to do his will. Well, think if we applied that to the Bible. Moses failed to credit Jehovah God for the miracle with the water. What are we going to do? Take out the first 5 books of the Bible? David sinned with Bathsheba. We're going to take out most of the Psalms. Peter denied Christ. There goes 1st and 2nd Peter. See, that reasoning really doesn't make sense. Jehovah God does use imperfect people to do his will.
The person wasn't saying that God cannot use imperfect people to do his will, first of all. And second, Moses, David, and Peter suffered the consequences for their actions and were directly condemned. Do Jehovah's Witnesses believe Russell, Rutherford, and the current governing body deserve to be condemned for their mistakes, as David was condemned for his? Because that's what he's suggesting with this stupid strawman that can't even stand on its own. However, he has a completely different point in mind, of course. You see, he wants to convince you that this American religion based in the United States, led by an overwhelmingly American and fully Western governing body, is actually not the American cult people identify it as.
Maybe you've heard others say that Jehovah's Witnesses are a breakaway Christian sect, or that we're a new American religion. Is that really true? Did Brother Russell start a new religion?
Yes, he did. A religion that broke away from the Millerist movement and was based on pyramidology and Bible numerology, all leading up to different failed dates for the end of the world.
No, absolutely not. What he did do is rediscover the true religion of the Bible, the way it was practiced by Jesus and the apostles.
This is a gigantic lie that Jehovah's Witnesses are constantly told. Jehovah's Witnesses are one of many restorationist religions, as we already said, based on reestablishing the original Christian ways. And that's what all restorationist religions will tell you, that their religion is the original Christian way. All of them are obviously wrong, because if they were right, then they would independently get to the same conclusions about what original Christianity looked like, and then they would just get together into one church. That has literally never happened. Instead, every restorationist religion ends up with inherently human interpretations on what Christianity is supposed to be. Jehovah's Witnesses do that with cherry-picked, extrapolated Bible verses, which they call Bible principles, and use them to extract rules that Jehovah's Witnesses have to abide by, doing exactly what Jesus condemned the Pharisees for doing.
Well, when you get a chance to read some of the early writings of Brother Russell and the early Bible students, you get a real sense of discovery, that they are excited to have found the truths that are there in the Bible all along. It's just been covered over with hundreds, thousands of years of lies and twisted doctrines taught by false Christianity. Yes, Jehovah's Witnesses are not a breakaway religion. We practice Christianity by following closely the model set out in the Bible by Jesus and the apostles. We could really say that the early Bible students, led by Holy Spirit, found the ancient path of true Christianity, and they cleared away thousands of years of pagan philosophies and man-made doctrines.
He's inviting people to learn about Russell and what he wrote when he knows that this cult will never release his books or videos. They could, with the flick of a button, just make all of them available on jw.org, along with every single other publication and video that you'll find there. The leadership would never do it, because this cult knows that if any witness knew that the central topic of Russell was the pyramid at Giza and his pyramidology studies, they would immediately realize that Russell didn't believe practically on anything they believe today, and they could no longer be lied to, pretending that Russell established the current version of this religion, as this speech is desperately trying to convince you of.
In fact, so clear and profound were those truths, and so clear was the path, that if you read the life experiences and life stories of those that came to the truth in the 1920s and 1930s, they'll often say that they read one book or one brochure and say, I have found the truth.
Weird how that hasn't happened in like 100 years, huh? It's almost like the more time passes, the more the message changes and the less effective it gets. Nobody is going to convert to the modern Jehovah's Witnesses after watching the musical card video, after all.
Yes, Jehovah's Witnesses today, we don't have a single leader or one man that is leading the organization. We're organized today as it was in the first century, a governing body, a group of men Jehovah uses to lead his organization today. And all the congregations around the world are united by the direction that we get from the governing body. And just as the apostles and elders in Jerusalem would send out decrees for all the early Christian congregations of the time, the same exact model is used today.
All of this is nonsense. The early Christians didn't even have a governing body. The term governing body doesn't even show up in the Bible. And Jehovah's Witnesses have also not had a governing body for most of their existence. Christian congregations communicated and helped each other back in the first century, but they did that independently and not directed by any higher group. Paul was sent to his preaching travels by his congregation, not by some inexistent higher-ups in Jerusalem.
Now today, decisions from the governing body take many forms. It could be articles in the Watchtower, letters to bodies of elders and the congregations, governing body updates, organizational direction provided at schools, and many other forms. But all around the world, no matter where Jehovah's Witnesses live, they accept the direction from one governing body. There's not the Latin Jehovah's Witnesses or the American Jehovah's Witnesses or the European Jehovah's Witnesses. We're all united worldwide.
This has to be the biggest lie in this speech. Yes, there are multiple breakaway branches of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's just that the governing body refuses to recognize the existence of anyone who claims to be a Jehovah's Witness but who doesn't follow the governing body. There have been multiple breakaway groups, often small cults that still believe in the restorationist bullshit. You can still see them here on YouTube, with Berean pickets being a front for pretty much another version of a restorationist Jehovah's Witness cult, completed with weekly meetings and such. There are so many groups that's why the Jehovah's Witnesses are known by that name, because after Russell died, too many people were using the Bible students label to identify their group, to keep their beliefs and to find each other once this religion started changing.
Now, some feel that because our world headquarters is in the United States, that Jehovah's Witnesses are an American religion. But that reasoning is like some who say that, well, the Bible's only for the Jews because it was written by Jewish men. But clearly, the Bible's message is for all mankind. And the fact that Jehovah chose Jewish men to write it down for us doesn't limit its message to just Jews. Likewise, the fact that Jehovah chose the United States as the location for world headquarters doesn't mean that Jehovah's Witnesses are an American religion. There's no limit to anyone, no matter what country or language, from becoming one of Jehovah's Witnesses and worshiping Jehovah. And the very fact that Jehovah's Spirit has moved the governing body to work so hard to make sure that the truth is available to all nations is further proof in my mind that we have found the path of Christianity that Jesus and the apostles practiced.
You heard it here first. Jehovah chose the United States. But hey, that's not their fault. They translate this cult into so many languages that's proof in my mind that the governing body is doing what Jesus did when he didn't translate anything. And how do we know that? Well, because you can join this American cult from all over the world. This is the kind of insulting, stupid logic that Jehovah's Witnesses get handed nowadays. No wonder nobody engaged with their propaganda and says, I've found the truth anymore. Also, the Old Testament was most definitely written for the Israelites. If not, then who's the prohibition on mixed fabrics for? Modern Jehovah's Witnesses with their polyblend suits?
And secondly, Jehovah's Witnesses are not an American religion. The governing body has made every effort to reach all mankind with the truth. We truly are the only united worldwide followers of Christ on the planet today.
Again, the fact that the governing body, made up of English-speaking men, mostly Americans, who live in the United States, and rule this religion from the main cult compound in New York, doesn't make this an American cult? Why? Well, because this cult translates their propaganda. That's why, for example, The Avengers isn't an American film. It's a world film because it was translated into many languages. It's practically Chinese. However, the gaslighting isn't done. We're about to see the experience of a man who has lived through different iterations of this cult and how he gaslit himself into believing the evidence that this cult was wrong could only prove this cult came from Jehovah.
When will Jesus separate the sheep from the goats? When were true Christians held captive by Babylon the Great? There have been so many interesting developments in our understanding that I have deeply appreciated. However, some adjustments were a challenge for me.
This is the story of Norio Ishibashi, a man who has gaslit himself into believing this cult was chosen by God, not just after seeing the evidence of nonsensical change of doctrine, but after seeing evidence of the human nature of the religion in his own personal life.
I was baptized in 1960 when I was 12 years old. I enjoyed the circuit and district work for 41 years. In 1971, I was serving as the congregation's servant. The divine name District Assembly shined new light of truth. Before then, congregations had just one overseer, the congregation's servant. But that assembly highlighted that just as Philippians 1:1 shows, the first century Christian congregations had more than one elder.
This is how human this organization is. The current elder arrangement, which is crucial for modern Jehovah's Witnesses, wasn't even a thing until the 70s. And that meant that men like this guy over here suddenly lost the amount of authority that they were used to having. Here's how he was affected when his position changed from being pretty much the main elder to being a glorified elder's assistant, a ministerial servant.
We prayerfully discussed the matter, and all of us were recommended as ministerial servants. Until then, I had given public talks in other congregations and at circuit assemblies. Now, I would not be given such assignments. Many elders from other congregations would come up to me and ask, "Brother Ishibashi, can you come and give a talk at our congregation?" "Oh, sorry, I can't. I'm not an elder." "What?" Everyone looked genuinely surprised. That really tested my humility, and at times, I felt quite depressed.
This might seem like a petty thing, but in this religion, the way to show your commitment and your status is by climbing up the ladder of responsibilities. So it's telling how they're dedicating a whole segment to this, because it shows how even when you're insulted by the religion downgrading your rank, you still have to internalize the problem and solve it with, you guessed it, more indoctrination.
As Proverbs 4:18 says, "The path of the righteous is like the bright morning light." With each flash of light, I needed to adjust to Jehovah's way of thinking and way of handling things and keep moving ahead. I prayerfully shifted gears I had many things to do, so I devoted myself to the field service and to congregation activities, and I rejoiced over the congregation's growth.
That's the solution, because believing Jehovah's Witnesses don't realize that the solution is basically to just gaslight themselves into believing the evidence of this religion being a man-made thing is the evidence of this religion being led by God himself. That's why you need to constantly look up what God has changed his mind about.
When I receive new publications or a new Watchtower magazine, I always study them carefully to see if there are any new understandings or topics to study further. I also look up the Beliefs Clarified section in the Publications Index, and I make it a topic of personal study. This research has really benefited me. Jehovah is the God of love. By clarifying our beliefs, he has adjusted our organization to be more holy and more effective in carrying out his will. God's people are just getting better and better. We are always at new heights. It is so different from how the world is.
Yes, God's organization is not like other organizations in the world that keep trying to improve things as time goes on, because this religion tries to improve itself as time goes on. Seriously, it's insane to me that we believe this flawed reasoning at one point. Is the music video at least any good this month?
All the shiny things that we see promise us pleasure and security. But if we want it all, there's a cost. We could be slaves to what we've bought. Let's keep it simple. Jehovah knows what we need. Let's keep it simple and be happy. Let's keep it simple, and you and I will be free. Let's keep it simple and be happy.
Yeah, shake your head no. You don't need that headset until the Jehovah's Witnesses decide that's how meetings are going to be carried out, just like you didn't need that iPad until your religion decided you did. This is this month's music video called, obviously, Just Keep It Simple, and it focuses on a very stupid Jehovah's Witness belief that you're either into God or you're into money. I'm into neither nowadays. Materialism is obviously a flawed philosophy by which to live your life, but you know what's even worse? To live your life by whatever some old fat guys in New York say. In reality, many outside this religion do not fall for the materialism typical of a capitalistic society and know that what gives your life meaning is what you do with it. And what's really valuable isn't money, but it's the legacy you leave behind. Can this music video even be saved by applying the Caleb JW music fix of playing it at twice the speed?
How good it feels to live a simple life. Our hearts are happy and our loads are light. With all this weight taking off our chairs, we're free to give our God our best. Let's keep it simple. Jehovah knows what we need. Let's keep it simple and be happy. Let's keep it simple, and you and I will be free. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Jehovah knows what we need. Let's keep it simple and be happy. Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, no, this is a bad song that's not so much against materialism as it is against you wanting to improve your life, because you must never want to improve yourself or your life when you are in this cult. Otherwise, you will quickly realize the first step to do that is to leave this cult. All in all, 2 out of 10. It's not even catchy. Oh, and it even has the worst ending. Yup, he shows his commitment to this cult by throwing away a job offer to the garbage. If this isn't representative of what you need to do to be a good Jehovah's Witness, I don't know what is.
Does Colombia remind you of a certain beverage? It makes me think of coffee.
It reminds me of Coke for whatever reason. But with that quick info dump of Colombia, this JW broadcast finally comes to an end. And am I going crazy, or are the broadcasts getting cultier nowadays? There's pretty much nothing about the made-up Bible lessons they like to extract, and instead, most of this whole thing was about your indoctrination, how you need to gaslight yourself when you see evidence of this being a human religion, and to believe that this religion is the exact religion that early Christians had, when this religion isn't even the same religion it itself was 30 years ago. But that's my full analysis of JW broadcasting this month. If you got all the way here, don't forget to subscribe and to leave a like if you want to support my content, or maybe throw me a buck like these guys over here who helped me spend more time analyzing this broadcast than Jehovah's Witnesses took to put it together.